Yes, we got it working. Wow, that's nice. Wow, that's nice. Wow, that's nice. It appears that I have the stream working so that the audience can view my screen in OBS, but I think there's still an issue with the name generation of the live stream itself. I want to know if there's a way I could go in and edit the name of the stream while I'm live. And also, I need to know how I can stream live on both Rumble and YouTube and at the same time, well, just like how do content creators manage
Wow, that's nice.
the multiple streams at once, and how are you supposed to interact with fans when it appears like there is a 15 to 20-second lag between what I'm actually doing live and what I'm viewing in the live stream studio on YouTube? It appears that I have the stream working so that the audience can view the screen in OBS, but I think there's still an issue with the name generation of the live stream itself. I wanted if there's a way I could go in and edit the name of the stream live, and also We're back. You got any viewers? Zero. Huh. Oh, good thing I didn't turn it off.
Yo,
Yo, welcome to the stream.
am I in the middle of the stream?
Yeah.
Here, I'll give you a good talking point because this is what I wanted to talk to you about.
Well, we have 0 viewers right now, so you can say whatever the hell you want.
Okay. Well, I was gonna say I wanted to take your take on this thesis. So first, have you been hearing the news about the earthquake in Venezuela?
No.
Yeah, there was a 7.5 magnitude earthquake in Venezuela, and right now the Caribbean is under tsunami watch. And the country is fucking devastated. Obviously, the country has been living in devastation for the last 10 years. No no resources like infrastructure, electricity, uh, you know, support systems, everything. So obviously now with the earthquake, it fucking makes it 100 times worse. The situation. And Marco Rubio already is sending out a Marine Expeditionary Unit. Well, there was already one deployed out there, but they're switching with a new one because that Expeditionary Unit is doing all the security for the U.S. Embassy in Caracas.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, I've been on the phone for like yesterday and today all morning with people there in Miami, figuring out what the situation's at. Which obviously the situation sucks. Like it's horrible. Like people there are literally living through hell right now. But on the geopolitical front and political front, I think this is a perfect opportunity for Washington, aka the Trump administration, to go down there and win the hearts and minds. And basically, this situation is going to force the country for drastic change in the short term. So the Trump administration can capitalize on this to basically obviously send out aid, which Marco Rubio already stated that he's sending the expeditionary unit to help out with internal security and supplies and stuff. But I think this is going to prime the country to actually drastically change in all fronts.
Hmm.
So kind of just think about it for a second and kind of want to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I don't know anything about it. I'm looking it up right now. Did it happen this morning or yesterday?
Yesterday night, last night, which would have been afternoon for us here in Montana.
Okay. 7.2 and 7.5.
Yeah, dude, literally, my cousin, he was getting to his building and he saw funny and well, it's not funny, but like it's funny. He witnessed the raid of the Maluto raid. Like he saw the Blackhawks and the Chinooks and the explosions from his terrace of his apartment building. And then yesterday he was driving home and he saw two buildings collapse in front of him.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and then on one of the coastal cities where we also have property and we have a few friends and families. Like literally, there were 10 buildings that just collapsed all at once.
Yeah, it says there's catastrophic damage to the like oil production infrastructure.
Yeah,
If exports continue with only minor interruptions, global oil markets are likely to see a sustained shock, especially because oil prices have recently eased following reduced tensions in the Middle East. And you mentioned the migration crisis, right?
yeah,
This could temporarily displace hundreds of thousands internally, encourage additional migration into neighboring countries, increase humanitarian burdens on countries such as Colombia, Brazil, and the Caribbean states. And whether this becomes significant depends on how quickly housing, utilities, and employment can recover from this natural disaster, which I guess we will see.
we will see. And the thing is, the country like it was already experiencing humanitarian crisis prior, just obviously man-made and rolling blackouts. Like so the little bit of infrastructure that was standing is now all gone. So like literally the country is in real crisis right now. Uh, So I think, you know, Trump pushing the idea of Venezuela becoming the 51st state, obviously in practice, is going to be a hard one. But the idea of, you know, U.S. having more investment in Venezuela now it's going to be, they have, I wanted to say the word excuse, but they have a reason to be more involved in trying to help rebuild the country. And especially now, because the country is like literally, you thought it was rock bottom before, now it's really, really at rock bottom.
Yeah.
So I think this is going to force change in a drastic and rapid way.
Well, in what ways was it at rock bottom?
Just economically. So, like, dude, like, okay, going back to the
Okay, yeah,
energy.
economically, but politically, there's no power vacuum. The structure still remains. People still acknowledge the state with the authority that it's due. There's
Yeah.
really relatively few insurgencies that have even sparked up, and those were all dispelled pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So,
Well, also, we're not Middle Easterns, like, like we used to be a democracy, and like Venezuelans, like, dude, it's a new world. It's the new world. We share a lot of foundational values as the American, United States. Obviously, culturally, we do have a lot of differences. Obviously, language being the obvious one, but the fundamental ideas, we do share with countries like the U.S. And the U.S. and Venezuelan relationships, not just as countries, but the people have been pretty intertwined for the longest time. That's why you have, one of our words, pana, is derived from partner from the Texans that came over in the 40s and 50s.
yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess that all depends on largely, I guess this is just where the metal meets the road. You know, we've seen a lot of talk from the government about how capable they are of intervening on behalf of the people, about how much work they've done to eradicate corruption within the government. So this is a perfect opportunity for the government themselves to demonstrate how capable they actually are.
Yeah.
So I'm sure like I said, I haven't been following it, but I'm sure that their official um, public releases uh, echo this sentiment.
Yeah. Well, and also like obviously there's a minority of Venezuelans who still support the regime, and those are just obviously the poor people that you know are handed a bread basket every other week from the government, which in the scheme of things is nothing, but for them is a lot. But the majority of Venezuelans are anti the regime, um, and want change. The only thing is obviously if the regime still has rule of law, it's kind of hard to speak against or fight against the regime. But obviously now with Delcy, who is the interim president, she's basically being run by the CIA and the State Department, which now I think, because in the last few months since the raid of Maduro, the question's been, all right, how is this transition's going to be, and who is going to be basically taken out from the regime, and that's kind of like what's been the Trump administration's been trying to work out, and and in our perspective, it's always been up in the air, of what's going to happen, if we're going to get new elections and have quote unquote fair elections where the opposition leaders can actually you know, run and have a voice and not being persecuted by the political gangs that the regime, like the equivalent of the regime's SS going down and, trying to submit and suppress any opposition movements.
Sorry, I'm trying to see how much lag there is
Yeah.
in this stream. Open it up. I haven't even seen what it's like to interact with a viewer, so
What are you streaming it on?
well,
Twitch?
I sent you the link.
Okay. It's live. Oh, is this your first live or?
Yeah. Oh shit! We just bumped up to one viewer at 156. That was probably me. So we should be seeing a boost to two viewers at 159 here in a second.
I'm getting
Yeah, I'm trying to just figure out, navigate this shit show of streaming. There's so much more to it than you'd ever expect. I think there's like a 20-second delay.
Yeah, hold on. PAX Americana experience. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Why is it? Should I spell it right?
Is it working?
Act, I'm just saying because you're not coming up. Like, I'm trying to find your account, which is other Cardorium. No, the fuck.
It's just at Pax Americana Experience is where it is. All one word.
There we go. Subscribe. Hit the live. Yeah, you got one viewer. It's just Pax Americana Experience where it is.
So that's probably what, a 15-second delay?
Yeah, it is a 15-second delay.
That's not terrible actually. Like I could interact with that. I'm gonna mute you on FaceTime and then try to interact with you in like the live chat.
The live chat. Okay.
Yeah. Well, that's probably what, a 15-second delay?
Yeah, it is a 15-second delay.
That's not terrible actually. Like I could interact with them. I'm gonna mute you on FaceTime and then try to interact with you in like the live chat.
The live chat. Okay.
Yeah.
That's probably what, a 15-second delay. Yeah, it's a 15-second delay.
It's not terrible actually. Like I could I'm gonna mute you on FaceTime and then try to interact with you in like the live chat. Yeah. Like what, 15-second delay? It's terrible. Oh, I just finally got your chat, David, about what's going on in Venezuela. Well, let me tell you all about the 7.2 and 7.5 scale earthquakes that struck Venezuela yesterday. It's a dire situation down there, and we might have to call in our Venezuelan expert, David, about what's going on in Venezuela. Well, let me tell you all about the 7.2 and 7.5 scale earthquakes that struck Venezuela yesterday. It's a dire situation down there, and we might have to call in our Venezuelan expert. David, about what's going on in Venezuela. Well, let me tell you all about the 7.2 and 7.5 scale earthquake that struck Venezuela yesterday. A dire situation down there, and we might have to call in our Venezuelan expert.
Yeah, there's about like a 15-second delay.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit more than that, actually. I think it might be like 22 seconds.
Yeah, because like how do you fix that?
I don't think you can. I think you just have to work with that, and that's just more than that, actually. I think it might be like 22 seconds. Actually, no, it's less than that because so I'm speaking right now, looking at the actual clock, it's 15 seconds. So when I hear myself say 15 seconds in your stream, then I'll be able to actually tell what the difference is. 22 seconds. Actually, no, it's less than that because so I'm speaking right now, looking at the actual clock. It's 15 seconds. So it's a 19-second delay.
Okay.
Then I'll be able to actually tell. Yeah, there we go. So just mute the stream so I can so I don't have to deal with hearing myself.
Yeah.
Damn, there's a lot that goes into this, surprisingly.
Yeah.
but you're the Pax Americana Experience's first guest. I'd like to introduce all of our viewers to our certified Venezuelan expert, David Leone. David, welcome to the stream. Thank you for joining us. What are you up to today, David?
Today, well,
Hmm.
I was about to drive to Missoula, Montana, and it was a rainy day. And as we know, in Bozeman, there's constantly construction and expansion. So I ended up getting a flat tire on the way to Missoula in the rain. I had to pull over, swap my tire, and then work my way back to Bozeman so I can get the original tire fixed. So I spent all morning in the cold rain dealing with this issue. Um, so that was fun. And now I'm here home answering work emails and, you know, re- reaching in to CJ Stevenson.
Checking in with
His,
the Pax Americana Experience.
yeah, Pax Americana experience.
Well, have you heard about the trip? This might be a good opportunity for the viewers to learn about the scope of our project that we're working on.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to Crete. You've heard the whole itinerary, haven't you?
Parts of it, not all of it.
Have you heard
I
about the
know.
whole idea though? I'm trying to basically answer the question, what is Western civilization? So, where did it start? So you go to Crete and you look at where it started. And then you ask yourself, okay, well, how did the Minoans affect the Mycenaeans in Greece? And how did the Mycenaeans in turn influence the Spartans? And then you take a ferry from Crete to Sparta and imagine yourself as like a Mycenaean traveling backwards in time. Because at one time, Crete was like basically the hub of the entire Middle East and the Mediterranean. So this was in think about like the Bronze Age. These are the Minoans. Why were
The Phoenicians.
Yeah, before the Phoenicians. So the Minoans were
Okay.
like they were basically the middleman of everyone. So you know, what what empire's going on over here in the Middle East during like 1600 BC? You should know.
Hmm.
Who's over here in Iraq at that time?
Iraq at that time.
Think south of Baghdad, right around here. There's a very famous city about 50 kilometers south of Baghdad.
Uh, the Euphrates, through the Euphrates,
Think about it. Think about the Bible. Who's
Babylonia.
There you go. So Babylon's going on over here. So the Babylonians are trading with their Western neighbors, the Hittites,
Hmm.
and at different times the Minoans would have traded with there was trade routes established that allowed them to trade with the Akkadians. You might have heard of like Sargon of Akkad,
Hmm.
and they traded with the people at Rhodes, of course, and people of Cyprus and the ancient Egyptians. And at the time, Anatolia, damn, who was kicking around? I guess the Trojans and those other different city states would have existed in Anatolia at the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Minoans would have rose to power. Then you hop on a ship and you sail over to Piraeus, which is like the port for Athens. This is the port of call for Athens. In fact, the first sentence of the book, The Republic by Plato, talks about how this morning I walked down to the port of Piraeus. So that's still functioning port, and I'll pull up there and rent a car, drive down into the Peloponnese, which is the western island there, or I guess that big sort of it's where Sparta is. So you drive from Athens over to Mistra, Sparta, up here in the mountains, and you look at the
Okay.
Spartan ruins, and you do a workout there. You work out like a Spartan in Sparta, and then you go down. And I think I stay right here on like the port of Kalamata that night with like a local, and then hang out at the fishing village the next day, and then drive back to Athens, and then drive or catch a train up to Meteora in northern Greece, which is where the mountains are. It's where all the monasteries are. And so when I'm up there, I'll rent a scooter and go up and visit, like go drive around all the monasteries and just explore the area. And then I'll stay there for like a day or two and then hop on a bus that goes over to Ioannina, which is on the other side of these little mountains over here in Western Greece. And then the bus will continue up, sort of hugging the Adriatic coast of Albania, and then I'll work my way up into Burat, which is kind of a little mountain town up here, where I'm going to stay at for 2 days. The first night I have a host family scheduled there, so I'll that first night check in with the host family. They'll cook a meal for me. I'll, get to visit with them about what it's like being an Albanian, what it's like growing up in the wake of the Balkan Wars, what it's, what does
Yeah.
what does Western civilization mean to you if you're an Albanian? What does the Ottoman Empire mean to you, if anything, anymore?
Or
Most of your
the Huns, if you go back that.
yeah, even the Huns, or for a long time, you know, the
That's one thing. A lot of people think of the world, on the terms of east to west, but part of your experience and your journey,
blue.
you you have to start thinking about it north to south, because remember the Vikings coming down from the north to the south and basically interacting and raiding the all the civilizations between northern Europe all the way down to the Balkans, and interacting with the Huns and the Ottoman Empire, and then if creating
Blue.
the
Blue's
whole
recently
Germanic
decided that he's a
society.
racist. Blue barks at other dogs and black people. That's it. So go ahead. Last I just start back at your last little point.
So the point is, like, a lot of people think about the world in terms of East and the West. Obviously, a lot of that is due to the Cold War era, but in reality, the world, I think it's in terms of how we got here, is in terms of North and South, from the Viking tribes that made their way down to mainland Europe through Germany, what we know as Germany, all the way down to the Balkans and Eurasia, interacting with the Huns and all the other uh, small kingdoms throughout, Northern Europe and all the way to the Mediterranean.
Mr. Leone, are you implying that civilization was advanced by the men from the north? That's a pretty ethnocentric, Eurocentric perspective and way of looking at history, don't you think?
Yeah, yeah, but I'm not disregarding. North Africans also have
Blue.
their influence in modern, at that time, modern technological and
Hold on, you're all over the place right now. I
yeah,
have too many points to address. Number one,
okay,
your point, you claimed that there's some association between our view of dissecting the world and its ideological development, its civilizational development into East West, and you implied that that was a Cold War leftover, or like an antiquated Cold War way of looking at things somehow.
yeah,
I disagree with that, mostly because Russia and the Russians largely consider themselves Western. And
well,
the same with the Soviet Union. They're more ideologically similar to the rest of Europe, and culturally similar, and architecturally similar, and in terms of the food they eat, and even the language they speak, Indo-European. This is
yeah,
all Western. So
That did get pushed into Russia, but it started in Kievan Rus. Who created Kievan Rus?
Who?
Those were the Vikings. The Vikings that came down
Okay, sure,
from the north.
but where you want to you want to go all the way back? This is going to take it full circle. Where did the Vikings come from? The Vikings were Germanic peoples that were pushed out of, like, pushed into the far north, where the farming land was objectively the worst. Where
Yeah,
it's not Germany, it's not Poland, it's not Czechia, it's not the Netherlands, it's not Belgium, it's not France, it's not like the fertile heartland. They're pushed up into the far north, and because of their restrictions on food and their harsh winters, they had to be planners. They had to be forward thinking people. They had to plant every year their crops. They had to be hard workers. They had to work longer hours than people in, say, the Mediterranean, in Greece, along the Ionian Sea, in Crete, in all of these different places. They had to be a little bit more forward thinking. Therefore, they had to be a little bit more sophisticated in terms of the way they organized politically, in terms of the way they executed justice, and the way they aligned culturally and religiously. And their religion does play a big part in why they believed in expansionism, because they thought the old gods sort of ordained them to, and every victory was a vote in favor of more expansion and more conquering. And so, where did they come from, though? They were Germanic people. Where did the Germanic people come from? They come from the, like, basket culture, and or like the bronze, before the Germanic peoples, there was like the Yamnaya people. Where were the Yamnaya people at? Yamnaya is the steppe, basically
yeah,
Ukraine, modern day. So the Vikings technically came down to Ukraine, but they also came from Ukraine in a way. You know what I mean? So it's
yeah.
all
But
interconnected. They're all still part of that same story of the Indo-European people. Whether you're Russian or Icelandic, you're part of that white ethno group, and you have a shared Indo-European history in a way that a man who grows up in Han China never does, you know? So the East-West divide that I'm referring to, that most people collectively refer to when they talk about the East and the West, is not a Cold War residual, but it's a divide between um, it's not a bifurcation of beliefs between Chinese philosophy and Western philosophy, although in philosophy, sometimes those are the only two schools of thought that are considered. But it's also a way of making the European story distinct from the African story, distinct from the South American story, distinct from the Mesopotamian or the Indus Valley civilizations. They have sort of their own trajectory, and they're all influenced more so by each other and each other's cultures and languages and religions than they are by Kyrgyzstan or Thailand, you know, or
yeah,
Somalia. So that's the first point I had to address.
okay.
And I
What's
don't
the second
know
point?
if in this live stream where we have a real meeting of the minds. By the way, we've had 5 views, so somebody has stopped in and listened to some of this, which is crazy to think. I'm going to put in the chat. Please feel free to comment. I need practice interacting with viewers. There's only one concurrent viewer, so it's just you right now.
Yeah, but
But
people have been on and off.
yeah, it says I've had 5 views, so I don't know if that's counting every time that I go back to the page to view to view the thing. I have a one chat rate, so I have one chat. Interesting. Okay. So where were we? Back to the meeting of the minds. David Leone versus CJ Stevenson. David Leone destroys libtards CJ Stevenson on Pax Americana experience. That's what the title of this live stream is going to be.
Jesus.
No, so anyways, this is all relevant to this trip and this stream, because my trip was designed specifically to sort of start as far back in time as I could while still focusing on Western civilization. So that's why I start with the Minoans. That's why I go to the Mycenaeans. That's why I go to the Spartans and then go to Athens, because that's chronologically correct historically. Remember, the Minoans would have been thriving in like 1800 BC to 1400 BC. And then around 1100 BC, there's a massive collapse. It's the end of the Bronze Age. And there are varying reasons for why this happens. But one, probably the going thesis is the sea peoples theory, that they just, and a combination of natural catastrophes, really bad earthquakes that just rocked Crete and destroyed all the temples and all the infrastructure, led to mass famine, mass migration, similar issues to what we're all dealing with today, only this is 2,500 years ago. And so a lot of these political trends are still very relevant. A lot of the discussions, the debates that they were having politically at the time, we have records of those. People wrote them down. And what were they arguing about? The same shit we argue about: immigration, national defense, domestic spending, taxation, farm policy, agricultural policy. All of this stuff is very much on the minds of these people. And so I continue in time. I continue in time from the Bronze Age Minoans to the Mycenaeans, who, remember, I'm not insulting your intelligence here, but I'm just reminding you that the Bronze Age collapses about 1200, 1100. They say 1177, some people do, but right in there it collapses. And then there's like a 300 or 400 year period of what they call the Dark Ages. Again, kind of like after the collapse of Rome, we had the Dark Ages. There's another one. But weirdly enough, it's during this time that some of the most prolific literary works are created. And so in 775, somewhere around that time frame, Rome is said to have been formally established. This is where the founding myth of the two wolf pups suckling off of their mom's tit and then the one pup devouring the other pup. Do you remember this story?
Yeah,
Do you remember the names of the two pups?
I don't remember the names, but
It's
I remember the
Romulus and
story.
Remus, and Romulus comes
Mhm.
out victorious, and that's why we have Rome as the name of the city. This happens allegedly. It's a myth. It's not archaeologically verifiable that two brothers were raised by suckling the tit of a wolf. But this was about 775 BC, and now remember, Rome doesn't actually do shit until about the 500s, 400s. They start to get a little bit more active and start conquering more of their territory on the Italian peninsula, but they don't become really Rome, the global power of Rome, until much later, until, they defeat Greece in 197. Officially, Greece falls under Roman control in 197. So that's 600 years later. And by this time, they'd already gone through 300 years of a monarchy and then cycled from the monarchy. This is where anacyclosis is first written. You were the one who introduced me to this idea, interestingly enough.
Yeah.
This is written by Polybius in the late 100s, or I guess early 100s, early second century BC. And he is a Greek man who's taken captive by the Roman leader and is put in charge of like tutoring the next in line, the next people that are supposed to come to power. And he gets really interested in this idea that history is not linear but circular, and that all governments have a certain path that they follow that is broken down into 6 phases. And remember, the first phase is like anarchy. There's no order whatsoever. And so from among the chaos arises the phoenix. From the ashes rises the one man, the strong man who can actually unite his people and represent the interests of his people at some grand scale. And he becomes like the first true leader. This is the establishment of the first phase, which is monarchy, which is the positive manifestation of rule by one. And then eventually, generations later, this descends into tyranny, because the grandson or the great grandson of the original leader doesn't he's raised with a silver spoon. He doesn't have the same grit. He doesn't have the same skill set that his grandpa does. He's not as in touch with the common people anymore because he was raised at the top level of society. So it descends into tyranny, and he starts to selfishly accumulate territory or, uh, you know, rest laurels upon himself. And then this falls apart. And at this point, you're only left with one option for overthrowing. The people don't have enough power at this phase, but the aristocracy does. And so this brings you to the third phase of anacyclosis, where the aristocracy is established.
Hmm.
It's the rule by kind of a few, but the non-tyrannical version of it. And then eventually that descends into oligarchy, which is then flipped back into the fifth phase, which is democracy, which inevitably descends into mob rule, which leads back to square one with anarchy. So Polybius is writing all of this based off of what has happened up to that point in 200 BC, which is kind of crazy to think that they had enough historical records from around the world for him to draw on to create this theory in 200 BC. And at the time, remember, Rome was a republic still because Julius Caesar hadn't came and destroyed the republic and established the empire with Augustus. And that doesn't happen until like 40 or 50 BC. And so this is still 150 years before the republic totally collapses. And here's Polybius out there calling the collapse of the republic. He's saying it's imminent. It's going to happen. And so imagine being Julius Caesar growing up 150 years after Polybius famously writes the theory of anacyclosis, and he knows that the next phase is empire. It's inevitable. And so somebody's got to do it. Why not him? And so he
Yeah.
basically just decides from an early age that he is going to do everything in his power to accumulate power and control at the top. And his whole life story is absolutely incredible. I'll get to talk about that even without going to Rome, just because the Roman influence over the Balkans is unavoidable. Once you get up into Albania and Montenegro and Serbia, especially, you're on the border of the Eastern Roman Empire, Western Roman Empire. So remember, when the West falls, what year is that?
Will you repeat that? Sorry.
What year did Rome fall? The west of Rome, I should specify.
I don't know on top of my head. I'm I'm not good with dates and points. I know the key points, but when it comes to dates and eras, I don't have those pretty. I don't have those memorized.
Well, that's what you got me for.
Exactly.
So in 476, this is getting back to actually what you were talking about earlier. In 476, the Germanic peoples come down for like the second or third time and sack Rome. And I think it's the Goths and the Visigoths establish their own sort of um, empire, if you will. They try to salvage what they can from the Western Roman Empire, but it all just ends up collapsing into their own different regions and competing factions and territories. The Lombards control like the far north of Italy for a couple hundred years, but this is the Dark Ages for the West, but not in the East. The East sees themselves as a continuation of actual Rome, and they don't fall until 1476, 1,000 years later, when the Ottomans finally conquered the Eastern Roman Empire, when the Ottomans sack Constantinople. So the border goes right through the Balkans, and the cultural differences that are left over are visible through the religions that really exist. So that really brings you to the next portion of the trip with Meteora in the north of Greece, where you really start to focus on the Christian monasteries that were integral there in the early years of Christendom.
Hmm.
And let's remember that in 333, or I guess 313 B or AD, 313 AD, the Roman emperor at the time formally adopts Christianity as the formal religion of Rome, and then within a century it goes from being the formal religion of Rome to being the only tolerated religion in Rome, and all of the pagans begin getting prosecuted heavily, or
Yeah.
persecuted rather.
Well, and this is the time of the split between of empires, the Western and Eastern half. So like the division of Rome and the rise of the
Yep.
Byzantine Empire.
Yep. The rise of Byzantium, and then of course
Mhm.
Constantinople takes his name, and naturally
Orthodox Christian, that's like the where the orthodoxy, like Orthodox Christianity, starts to take influence.
100%. Well,
Mhm.
Christianity. This is depending on who you're talking to. If you're talking to a Catholic, they would say this is the Catholic Church being, it's the Catholic Church in its infancy, basically. And then you get a bunch of heretics, if you're talking to a Catholic, a bunch of heretics come around in the 11th century AD, and they start talking about how corrupt the power structure is in the Vatican, and how the Vatican is exploitative. And, you get this great schism that happens in 1054, which is where Orthodoxy officially separates itself from Catholicism. And Catholicism would say that Orthodox are the heretics, and of course the Orthodox Christians say that the Catholics are the heretics.
Yeah.
And that's still very much alive today, and that happened 1,000 years ago. So understanding these things helps you understand like the difference in mindsets between these Christians that are all living in this area still to this day. Why is it that so many monasteries were established in the north of Greece? Why was that such a safe haven? Well, historically, it's right in the heartland of Christianity. The Bible talks about several places in Greece repeatedly in the New Testament. Thessalonica, Philippi, um, where else? I guess Ephesus is on the western side of Anatolia or Turkey. So Thessalonica, Philippi, and Athens, of course, which when I'm in Athens, I'm going to go to this. Uh, it's like this stadium, a Roman stadium kind of, that they would have
Mhm.
used for speeches that historians pretty much have verified, and it's in the Bible that this is where Paul would have spoke in Acts when he's addressing the people. So there's portions of the Bible where you can go to the exact place where those words were spoken to people, and then recorded and then written down in the New Testament and still reread to this day. And I'm gonna actually reread the passage from Paul in that exact location as he would have at that time, just sort of
Okay.
larping as a early Christian, as a as an apostle. But yeah, so you go to Meteora, and then you're in the Middle Ages. You're really focused on early Christendom. You're still moving forward chronologically. Then by the time you get to Albania, now you're talking about the fall of Rome, the Western versus Eastern Roman Empire, and additionally, you have to now start talking about the Ottoman Empire, the emergence of the Ottomans. Where did they come from? When did they gain power? In 1476, they took control of Constantinople and then sort of annexed most of the Balkans within 50 years.
Well,
And
you also like the invasion of the Mongols in 13th century, and then also during that time is like the start of the rise of Kievan Rus, and where the rise of Moscow, um, or the idea of Moscow, and then also in conjunction with that is the Polish Lithuanian Commonwealth, obviously the development of the Russian Empire and the Austrian Empire as well.
we got a lot to cover in that region for sure. There's
Yeah.
all sorts of empires that are competing for the title of, premier civilization, or the torchbearer of Western civilization, I guess is a fair way to put it.
Mhm.
Who is the torchbearer? The Ottomans or the Venetians, who had more power at the time. They were constantly at war with each other. The Venetians basically maintained control over Dubrovnik and Kotor, Montenegro, for the entire time. The Ottomans controlled Albania, Montenegro, Serbia, Bosnia, and then, of course, eventually the Ottomans make
Okay.
it all the way up to Austria, and they're
Quick side note to like relate this to your trip. In Dubrovnik, in Croatia. One thing I do recommend doing is renting a small boat and then doing the island hopping around the coast.
oh,
And then,
we're getting there. I'm about to tell you about it. That's planned.
okay, because I did that with a couple buddies, and that was really fun. Like that was, I think,
It,
one of the highlights of that trip.
I'm doing that exact thing. So after Berat, Albania,
Hmm.
let me see if I can actually pull up my um right here, I think. Oh yeah. So when I get to Berat, I'm checking in with my host family. And then honestly, what I'm probably going to focus on more than the Ottomans and the Mongols and the Russians and the Venetians and the Romans. Sure, all of those things matter, but what's more pressing to these people historically? Obviously, the collapse of Yugoslavia in
Yeah,
1991 and the
yeah,
Balkan Wars, the first and second Balkan Wars in the 1990s. This is
yeah.
where all of the military installations are still set up to this day. There's military bunkers falling apart all over the place as a constant reminder of how recent some of this stuff was. Like by the
And then the
time,
guy, and then the funny part. Well, I wouldn't say funny, but like the interesting part of that is after the collapse of the Soviet Union, those were like the hubs of illegal arms trafficking, the black market that
oh,
ended up in all the conflicts in Africa and the Middle East.
and the Middle East, 100%. And so this directly affects U.S. foreign policy, not just from an arms dealer perspective, but because in the early two or in the 90s, who was it that had to put down the genocide of Albanians in Kosovo at the hands of the Serbians? It was the United Nations. We had to send in boots on the ground, mostly with Uncle Sam and Uncle Sam's backing. We sent U.S. troops in the 90s to Kosovo to stop this
And air,
genocide
and
from this.
airstrikes.
Yeah, and we bombed the fuck out of the city. And this was
Yeah.
all very recent, and a lot of these people, anyone who's over the age of 40 or 50, is going to have personal experiences with these things. So these are sort of the interviews that I want to get on the streets when I'm going around town, is try to go like away from the tourist centers, go to the small towns, stay with the local families, and just ask them about what it was like growing up in Yugoslavia and what the biggest differences they see now, living under Albanian control or North Macedonian control versus what it was like in Yugoslavia. What was the war like? Do they consider themselves a part of Western civilization? What do they think of Americans? What do they think of democracy? What do they think of you know
So it's interesting. So when I was in Croatia, we landed in Zagreb, then took an, no, we were in Munich, and then we took an 8 hour bus drive to Zagreb, and then Zagreb we took another bus drive to fuck, what's that town called? It's on the coast. Uh,
Zadar,
no, here I'm pulling up the map.
Rijeka?
No,
Is it in Croatia?
yeah, it's in Croatia.
Pula?
No, it's like it's one of the main towns on the coast here.
Dubrovnik?
No, we went to that one after
Uh,
Split, Croatia.
Split. I'm looking at it.
Yeah, yeah. So that's where we landed. But on that 8 hour drive, well, from the drive from Zagreb to Split, Croatia, It just happened to be my buddies. The buses have, 2 seats per like each row has 2 seats. And my two buddies, they sat behind me, so they were sat together, and then I sat next to this old guy. He's Croatian, but he grew up obviously in the Soviet Union. He's originally from Ukraine, and obviously speaks Russian. But he was telling me his story of like, so during the Soviet Union, basically you were just another number. And they kind of like, did an assessment of you. So basically they did an assessment of him and his brother, and they sent him out based on his assessment. They sent him out to Croatia, and they made him learn English. Um, because at that time in the Soviet Union, you know, Yugoslavia was a huge hub for commerce. So that's why they made him learn English. And then his brother was sent to a factory in Ukraine, uh, somewhere outside Kiev. So he was just telling me about how he had a little bit more freedoms than his brother living in Croatia at the time than his brother living in Ukraine under Soviet rule. It's like he had a little bit more freedoms because he was on the coast and he was in the shipping industry in that area, and he was able to you know travel through the region and kind of have more exposure than his brother. Uh, but he was also talking about the time during Yugoslavia, and what's the ruler's name at the time? It's on tip of my
Tito.
tongue. Tito, yes. Uh, and like how uh, how Tito would just rule the country or the region. Um,
He was a dictator. He ruled with an iron fist. We knew he
Iron
was a
Fist,
dictator, but he was at least a relatively pro-Western, US friendly dictator. So we never did
exactly.
anything about it. And when he died in the late 70s, early 80s, uh, Yugoslavia basically fell apart because he failed to establish a viable succession plan for after his death. So then you get a bunch of
Exactly.
competing factions emerging in the early 80s. You get a bunch of competing politicians and influential figures vying for power, specifically within the media, within mainstream media, within newscasting, radio. They knew that was the key, and they knew that the key to consolidating power for their little regions was by appealing to the one thing that they knew would resonate with everyone, which is the ethnic differences. They, for the first time, started breaking down the communities on ethnic lines. When World War I happened, for example.
Well, that's also the process of Russification. That's not a new concept. So, like during the Soviet Union, the same way during the Russian Empire, they imposed rules of Russification, and that's why a lot of on ethnic lines, especially language, everybody had to speak Russian, and you couldn't speak your native language. And that's what this guy was talking about was when he lived in Croatia during that time growing up, he had those freedoms because he learned English, and he spoke Ukrainian and Russian.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I will push back a little bit there because, I've been to Latvia and I've spoken with the people that grew up there in the Soviet Union, and none of them were restricted on their ability to speak Latvian under Soviet control. In fact, Latvian was promoted. You were allowed to have Latvian specific schools, whereas today, now that Latvia has is recognized internationally, it has its independence. Russian speakers are forbidden from having their own public schools. They're not allowed to use Russian in the schools at all, which makes it really difficult for a lot of these teachers who've been in the game for 30, 40 years because some of these ideas of like physics, for example, or upper level chemistry, they're almost impossible to convey precisely in the Latvian language because it's so young. it wasn't established until like the 1850s. So the Latvian language is only like 170 years old,
Hmm.
written in written form, whereas the Russian language has a much more complex and old history. So a lot of these more advanced ideas are much better to learn and discuss and engage with the Russian language. Similar to how, when astrophysics and people started getting really into, rocket science, a lot of countries, Japan particularly, started promoting the ideas policy wise that we should mandate people learn these subjects in English because the concept or English itself is more suited, it's better equipped to teach people these subjects than our own languages. And it was like a huge admonition of humility for the Japanese people. And you started to see a rapid advance in test scores shortly thereafter, once they started teaching kids, investing in English and teaching them these subjects in English. And so while Russia might have sort of patented the playbook for oppressing minorities at different points in their history, at least recently, I can say that that has not been the case. And the best evidence for this is honestly the fact that Russia is one of the most ethnically diverse countries in the world, and it works well. And they consider themselves Russian, even though they're ethnically Tartar or ethnically, you know, from the Caucasus, and they're maybe,
Contacts.
yeah,
Yeah.
maybe they're Dagestani or something. Maybe they're Chechnyan, but they
Hmm.
all still consider themselves Russian at the end of the day. And even when you watch these UFC fights, these guys from Armenia and Dagestan share way more in common with each other than the
Well,
people
and
in Moscow and Dagestan. And yet they
we
still fight under the Russian flag.
yeah, remember when the Kazakhstan uh entourage came to the ranch?
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
How could I forget? I interpreted.
yeah. um, so like that's what they were talking about. Like they're kind of like some of them like obviously nationalistically they see themselves as Kazakhs, but they also embrace some of the Russian influences in Kazakhstan.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Well, even it's weird when you look at the former Soviet states, because they are pretty divided on how they collectively look back at the Soviet Union years. Because if you ask someone from Eastern Europe, former Soviet bloc countries like Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, they hate the communists passionately. They fucking hate them to the point where they're
Like I
openly
hate the
celebrating.
communists.
Well, they're openly, and it's problematic for the Russians because they associate modern day Russia with the communists. They associate them with all of the aggressive, like harsh policies of the Soviet Union, the modern day Russia. So,
Yeah.
what does Latvia do? Well, they openly, publicly celebrate their World War II veterans, not the ones that fought for the Soviet Union, though. After Germany had taken control of the Baltics in like 41 or something, there was a
Hmm.
bunch of Latvian men who ended up fighting the Russians with the Nazis. Those are the soldiers that are celebrated every year. So they're
Yeah.
literally celebrating Nazi pride. And the Russian state sees this and talks about the process of Nazification happening, where these Eastern Bloc countries are becoming more and more Nazi friendly, like literally, uh, you, National Socialism friendly. And it's not just in Latvia, it's in Ukraine too. There's a bunch of openly neo Nazi people. There's an entire, for a while, there's an entire unit in
Even
Austria that was under fire. Remember the Azov battalion?
yeah, and also the SS Muslim battalions in the Balkans too.
The SS Muslim battalions, as well as the SS. Well, this is this is where it gets hypocritical for Putin, because he talks about the Nazification of Eastern Bloc countries. What about his own Nazification? What about Wagner Group mercenaries that he hires to do all of his dirty work for him in Africa, dismembering and chopping up terrorists and putting their body parts in the shape of a Nazi like swastika earlier this week. This
Yeah.
is currently happening. This isn't old news. This is a very real thing worldwide. I would argue people starting to take a little bit more revisionist approach to World War II and understand that the story we got is only one part of the story. More, especially
Yeah.
people in our generation, they're starting to hear these AI generated or AI translated Hitler speeches and listen to what he's actually talking about and understand, oh, that's how so many people could become complicit with such a mass scale of cruelty, because that was a question that was never answered in our school system. You'd ask, what why, all we were told is that Hitler was a crazy maniac who hypnotized his entire population. The Germans were good when they didn't like the Nazis, but when they were
Yeah.
Nazis, they were all magically evil. And as soon as Hitler
No,
died, they all turned from evil to back to good Germans,
but
which
I think
just
like
it
the two,
doesn't make sense.
yeah, but also the two individuals who took advantage of that. Obviously Hitler was the crazy front, you know, out in the open, the leader, but the masterminds behind that were both Himmler and was a propagandist, fucking
Goebbels.
Goebbels. Yeah, Goebbels and Himmler were the masterminds behind, because Himmler was the one who basically created the SS.
Well, yes, and he was more importantly the one who is in charge of overseeing the
The
work camp.
concentration camp.
Yeah.
Yeah, and work and concentration camps.
Yeah.
Even though regular Wehrmacht, um, and the Waffen couldn't even like have any insights of what the SS were up to in those parts where the concentration and work camps were. Like they didn't even have access to that. So that's why a lot of the Germans were kind of in the dark of what was actually happening um, inside Germany at that time, because the only ones who knew about it were members, high ranking officers within the SS.
Allegedly.
Yeah,
Allegedly Hitler and all of his high level decision makers, including who's the Russell Crowe just made
Gore.
this movie. Yeah. Goring. His character knew nothing about it. Hitler knew nothing about it. I think we're all
I
we weren't
honestly
born
Hitler knew
yesterday.
about it.
I th-
No, yeah,
I think everyone would probably agree with the idea that they didn't know that, sure, they might not have known the scale to which this atrocity was being committed, but they certainly knew about systematic
oh,
elimination of the Jewish people and other minority groups.
yeah. That was in the open.
They
You know,
knew they knew about it to that degree, which is what's
and
important.
yeah,
But you're jumping ahead. We're in the 20th century now, talking about the Nazis and National Socialism. We're still back in Berat, Albania, talking about the early rise of the Ottoman Empire and
yeah,
the Mongol invasion of 1241 that was ended up being the one of the biggest what ifs in history. In 1242, the Great Khan dies and calls all of his troops out of the Balkans and Hungary, and they're at the gates of Vienna, basically about to take over Western civil or the rest of Western Europe, and their Khan dies and they all get called back. And so we never really see what happens, and they're only there for like a flash in the Balkans, so it's not going to be worth me more than just mentioning it in passing as I'm talking about some of these historical sites, because what is Mongol architecture? We don't know, because it never lasted. It never stayed anywhere. It didn't have a lasting effect like the Middle Eastern architecture of the Ottomans, that they built roads, they built infrastructure, they built housing, they built walled cities that still exist today. And we'll be looking at those when we're in Berat, Albania. But also, like, the main day I'm in Berat right now, I have a tour scheduled to go up to like a beautiful canyon, and I'm staying with like an agritourism company that night at their little homestay. And I might change that day, but that's what I got on the books right now. Because then after
Okay.
Barat, we're going from the agritourism place to a hostel in Old Town. And because this place was so recently in a civil war, there's no trains really connecting all these cities. So what do you take? The bus for like
That's
6 or 7 hours at a time.
that's why I had to take a bus from Germany to Croatia, and it was 8 hours.
Oh, miserable.
Yeah, and I was kind of hungover too.
Yeah, right now I'm scheduled to take the 8 a.m. bus from Kotor on the 4th of September and arrive in uh, Kotor. I guess the 8 a.m. bus from Berat to Kotor, because Kotor is Montenegro. And I'll get
Hmm.
there by like 3 p.m., check into the hostel, explore the city a little bit in Montenegro. And then the next day is when I'm going to go down and try to find where the old fishermen meet up and have coffee at 5 in the morning before work. And I'm going to tell them I'm making a documentary, and I would offer my services for the day to see if they could take me fishing with them. And if that doesn't work, maybe just rent a boat with some other hostel goers or something. But that's kind of my plan today for the first day in Kotor, Montenegro. Then the second day, I am going to explain or explore some more of the, like, the old fortress and the museum or whatever in the morning. And then in the afternoon, I'm catching a ferry from Kotor, Montenegro to Dubrovnik, Croatia. And that's like a 3 or 4 hour ferry, I think. But then I get to Dubrovnik, stay in a hostel there that night. The next day, explore Dubrovnik just for the morning. And remember, this is King's Landing. This is where King's Landing was based off of.
Mm.
So there'll be some cool Game of Thrones, connections when I'm here. But I'm only there for a morning, unfortunately. Then I got to catch a fucking bus. No, actually, I catch a train finally. A really beautiful train ride from Montenegro, the coast, to or sorry, Dubrovnik, the coast, to Sarajevo, Bosnia. And that one like winds through the canyons and the mountains along the river. Gorgeous. It's gonna be like 6 hours, but I'm actually excited for that trip to Sarajevo, Bosnia.
Yeah, I'm looking right here. Is it through the M20? So you go to Velika, Gako, Izgori. Uh, you said the mount, or you go through or you go north, northwest towards like Mostar, or you go to northeast through the border with Montenegro. Because I'm seeing right now there's a few routes.
Hold on, I'm looking it up. Let's see here. Looks like it's a bus and a train to get there. I have to take a 3 hour bus from Dubrovnik to Kap Kaplijna, and then I take
Kaplichna, and
yep
then from Kaplichna you go up to Mostar.
no to actually you're right. Yes, to Mostar.
Okay.
Whoa. Yeah, you're right. That's supposed to be Mostar.
Well, that looks like a fucking beautiful city.
Oh, yeah. So I'm just taking a bus that morning from Dubrovnik to Mostar, and then the train is the next leg that I was looking forward to, I guess. Mostar to Sarajevo. But when I'm in, oh, Mostar is going to be badass because you're in Bosnia. And I found this hostel that's owned by a Bosnian war veteran named Miran. And
Hmm.
he does local tours of his city and the local battlefields. And he tells stories about, troop movements and what this was only 30 years ago. It's insane.
That is insane.
Yeah. And so I'm staying at his hostel just for his little tour that he has scheduled on, or that I have scheduled for him on the 9th. And then the 10th is where I catch the train, the 8 a.m. train to Sarajevo. And it's only on the 10th.
On the 9th, I'll be on the other side of the Adriatic Sea in a tux at a wedding. So I'll
Well,
probably call you
yeah.
if I get bored.
Well, maybe on the 10th you could fly to Sarajevo, Bosnia, and meet me there.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I'll be getting there at about lunch, and I bet you could get a flight from Italy to Sarajevo by lunch for cheap.
Yeah.
Honestly, I bet for like $90 you could get a ticket to Sarajevo from Italy.
I'm looking it up right now. Okay. So Bologna,
You're in Bologna for the wedding?
that's a well, it's gonna be in Tuscany, but Bologna is one of the closer airports. Said Bosnia Herzegovina.
Yeah, a $92 flight, 6 hours, you could be there
So you said the 10th?
on the 10th. Yeah, and you could meet me in Sarajevo that day. I'll just hang out and wait for you basically because I get there at lunch. You'll probably get there early afternoon. Then the next day, it's my siege day. So I'm going to the Sniper Alley, Yellow Fortress, Tunnel Museum, and I'll still be staying with my boy Miran. And so you could stay there for a night on the 10th and 11th with me.
Okay. Yeah, it's $100 flight. It's not bad at all. Air Serbia.
Yep. And then the next day in Bosnia, the 12th, is where I'm going to go out to the Olympic bobsled track and just fuck around out there, like run around on it, explore it. It's abandoned. And I'll do that in the morning and then maybe a museum in the afternoon or hang out with the hosts. It's like kind of open. Then the next day is where I catch an 8 hour bus to fucking Belgrade.
Belgrade, Montana.
Yeah, Belgrade, Serbia.
I'm kidding.
I know. And then in Belgrade, Belgrade's badass city right there on the it's right there on the Danube
Yeah.
River. And so I'm staying on a floating river hostel for 2 nights there.
Quick fact. So obviously you know this, but when I was living in Lewistown, a lot of the old houses there, the stone houses in town, in town, were all built by Serbian immigrants who were all really good masonry.
Yeah, it's amazing
Stonemason.
how many similarities like the Balkan people, Serbians have with Montana. Topographically, there's places in Bosnia and Serbia that looks a lot like Montana.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't doubt that at all why they would want to go from Serbia to Montana. That makes sense. Plus, they're skilled builders and, they get paid way better to do the same work. But I'll be basically fucking around in Belgrade. There's a lot of lists of the best nightlife in Europe, and somehow Belgrade, Serbia has the best nightlife.
I I don't doubt it. I mean, I think the other place I really like, obviously, is a different country, but it's in Hungary. Like Budapest has a really good nightlife as well.
Well, if you're not doing
Uh,
anything for the, week or two after the wedding, maybe you just tag along with me because I'm staying in Belgrade for, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 nights. Well, I'm staying there 2 nights and then I'm going to the countryside to stay at like a farm stay. This is actually where I'm at in my planning right now. I have to figure out because I want to go out in
uh,
the country and I want to stay in like a small town off the beaten path and actually go like to local places, talk with real Serbian locals. But I also kind of want to go to a place where there's going to be a lot of Russians and there's a huge uh, influx of Russians into Belgrade and Novi Sad, which is a city like 2 hours
yeah,
north of Belgrade towards Budapest.
yeah,
So I'm going to
yeah.
drive up to that region and find like a small, maybe farm to stay on for 2 nights, or maybe a small local Russian person to, thing. But the second day in Belgrade is where I'm doing my Russia day. So I'm going to, because Belgrade's I didn't even realize this, a hugely important Russian city and the largest like Russian cultural mission outside of Russia is actually in Belgrade, Serbia. So I'm
Yeah.
going to go eat
Side
Russian
note,
food and speak to Russian people.
side note, political side note. When was their elections? Because they had recent elections. Was it last year? Where it was like that. Uh, you know, it was like the pro right, like the right wing government in Serbia against. I don't know. I haven't followed it too closely.
Oh, Serbian
Like,
politics? Fucked. It's
yeah,
completely fucked. Mostly because
you have U.S. influenced political groups.
what you're thinking of is uh it's like the increasing influence of the Republic of Srpska, which is like
Okay.
RBSK, and they have like an entire territory outlined along like kind of the edge of Serbia, and they're the ethnic hardliners. These are the people that after the war sort of had to make a bunch of concessions to the more liberal factions, the more centrist factions, but
Okay.
they're still technically leading an ongoing insurgency against the Serbian government, but it's not officially recognized by any of the other countries in the UN. And there's a leadership arrangement in the country that basically prevents any in like other nations from taking control legally. So it's a
Okay.
very weird, like, tense situation where the leader of this Republic of Srpska has his own kind of political party within the Serbian government that's basically oversaw by the UN at large because they are still have their little kid gloves on them, their little training wheels from their war. They're not trusted to govern themselves yet. So
Yeah.
the UN has like a yes man that's just like signing off on all the decisions that they make. So they don't really have autonomy. And that's giving more and more credence to the Republic of Srpska's arguments year after year. People start to want a little bit more Serbian, pro Serbian interest groups in the government, so they keep gaining more and more power, but, nothing, there's really no like, actually, I think I did see something about how there was a bunch of troop force movement on the border with Kosovo again. The Republic of Srpska was like building up, they were like mobilizing their troops on the border. And then
Do you think
Kosovo responded with all of their forces. And then the UN had to say, that's enough, you two, back off.
is 10, because I know 10th group is a very operational in Romania. Do you think they have sprinkling their operations a little bit in Serbia as well, or
Oh,
no?
100%. If PSYOP does, then you can damn well bet that 10th group does. we have teams in every country, basically.
Yeah.
In some countries, it might only be one person that goes. Like Mongolia, for example. I My one friend was the lone psyoper in all of Mongolia, but we have people there. We have representation. We have people, if we need it. And depending on what's going on, they allocate more or less people to different countries. So like if there's like Mongolia, nothing is really going on worth monitoring, so we just have a one-man mission that we give to like a lowly
Yeah.
E6.
Isn't it like Mongolia also they're kind of pro-American, or like they like the Americans? Or am I wrong about that? Or
Yeah.
is it no? Is it the Kazakhs also? The because I remember saying talking to I forget his name, the one of the guys from the the envoy from Kazakhstan. He was like how he loves America.
Yeah, I would say they all pretty much are America friendly.
Mm-hmm.
Like really the only stand country that's not America friendly is maybe Tajikistan because it's so authoritarian, and I mean, maybe obviously Afghanistan because of our history with the Taliban.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, like Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, we have good relationships with all
Tajikistan.
them.
Yeah.
Tajikistan, well, I said Tajikistan's a maybe. I'd have to do more
Okay.
research on it, but Tajikistan's like shockingly wealthy, at least at the federal level, because of how authoritarian their governmental structure is. And so they're kind of like the Poland of Central Asia, you could think of them as.
Yeah.
Not that Poland's authoritarian in the same way, but you know what I
Okay.
mean, like effectively
Yeah.
speaking.
Yes. Yeah.
I got to take a leak real quick. Hold on.
Okay. So in this trip, you're just sticking to the western side of the Balkans and then working your way towards Western Europe, right?
Yeah, I'm just going as far north as Mostar, and then I could have continued north to Croatia and Slovenia, but honestly, I felt like I would get better balance, a more balanced look at the Balkans if I spent time on the coast in Albania, Montenegro, Croatia, and then hopped up into the hinterlands, into the farmlands, into the mountains up around Sarajevo in Serbia, and then up into northern Serbia, north of Novi Sad, where I'm looking at right now, trying to figure out a
Your
place
next
to
move.
stay. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out my next move basically. And honestly, I was on Instagram yesterday and you type in off the beaten path hotels, Serbia, whatever. Boom. Next thing you know, your entire For You page is basically like underground Serbian and Bosnian like travel location places, places to eat, places to recreate. And I can't get off of fucking Instagram till 2 in the morning because
Jeez.
I keep finding all these cool ass places that when you're doing OSR or like just open source planning in general, you're
Yeah.
not going to find those places on the three or four different websites you're using to plan the trip. Booking.com, Expedia, hostels.com, and Rio to
You know
Row,
what?
whatever.
Get a VPN and just put your VPN to that country, and then you'll get more info.
The problem is, then I get all of my results in Serbian. I tried it.
You tried it.
Yeah. And it doesn't work either because then you can't fucking navigate shit. You can click on
You
stuff
can't.
that looks cool, but you don't know where the booking reservations are. You can't navigate their website. You don't know how much shit costs.
You can't translate the website. Like they don't have the translate option.
Not on a lot of these local places, no.
Yeah.
The
Well,
ones in Mostar, the big cities, they of course offer English, but the stuff in the backcountry, like in Serbia especially, I didn't even realize they had a big spa culture. But it looks like there's a bunch of badass hot springs in Serbia that
yeah.
I'm gonna
I
try
saw the
to
one,
figure out how to go to.
and I saw the one that you sent me earlier. I saw that one. Almost looked pretty cool. Because the reason I'm asking, because like now that like I'm going through the exercise with you, and I'm like looking at the map, and obviously these are places that I've been wanting to go. Like I put it on my list, but obviously it's not this trip around. But we should plan a future trip and then go explore
Wait, why can't you do
around
it
the
this trip?
too many. I have too many things going on. Uh, but the wedding is one, and just work and all that. I gotta. I'm on the path to kind of eventually not have to work this job, but
Well, what if you just
that's still.
took a week off of work?
Well, I'm already taking 2 weeks off.
On what days?
Boom, boom. Let me open the calendar. All right, fucking where's Google Calendar? Well, in saying all this, as I looking for the calendar, because I would like to go explore, like make a trip where we land in Istanbul, and then we work our way north through Bulgaria, uh, and then into Romania, and then Moldova, and then work once we're in Moldova, work our way back west towards like Hungary and Slovakia.
Oh yeah. I'm down for
But
that trip too, but why can't you
because
what days do you have off right now?
I'm pulling up the calendar as we speak. Google Calendar. Also, I have to, you know, be considerate of my significant other.
Okay, we're talking about 1 week here, not a whole fucking 3 year long war campaign. I think she'll be fine.
Okay. Okay, so we land the 4th on Friday, Italy. Then we have an event the 6th and the 7th. The weddings and the 8th. The weddings on the 9th. And then so I have the 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th.
Free.
And I can, yeah,
And then what about you start work again on the 14th?
I would say like around the 16th. I gave myself a 2-day buffer
Just to get back?
just to get back.
Well,
Yeah.
why don't you just say, fuck those 3 days at the end of that week, 16th, 17th, 18th. Tell them you'll be back on the 21st. So you're only taking 3 additional days off. But that gives
Okay.
you 5 or 6 extra days so that you don't have to fly back to Bozeman till, let's say, the 18th or 19th, so that you can still have at least a day or two to decompress and get ready for work again. But if you're
Okay.
with me through the 17th and 18th, that puts you with me all the way up till Hungary, which is perfect. I get to Hungary or Budapest on the
And I can fly out
17th,
of Budapest.
and you can fly out of Budapest back to Bozeman, Budapest to Bozeman on like the 18th at, early morning or whatever. And then you'll have a full
Whatever.
day on the 19th and 20th. I would say fly back the morning of the 19th because
Okay.
you gain hours going back west so that you get there the night of the 19th, and then you have all of the 20th to sort of unpack and get ready for the week. So you get back on a Saturday, but you get a full that way you get a full day in Budapest on the 18th, and you get 2 full days in Belgrade with me because that's assuming you'd come. The wedding is on the
9th.
yeah, so you would actually fly and meet me in Sarajevo, Bosnia, and then you'd get to accompany me from Sarajevo, Bosnia to Belgrade, Serbia. Then we'd spend 2 days in Belgrade, and then 2 days in the countryside of Serbia, and then 2 days in Budapest, and then you fly home. That's three
Yeah.
different countries that you get to add by taking three extra days off, basically.
Heck, yeah, that's not a bad idea.
That's totally workable.
It is workable. Let me. All right. Let me write these. I'm writing these days down right now. Okay. So, but all right. So it would be 10th is the wedding. So let's say the 11th and 12th, either the 11th or 12th. Let's say the 11th. Fly out in the afternoon.
Yep. Meet up with me in Sarajevo, Bosnia.
Okay. And then the 12th,
So then
13th.
I could send you the link for where we're staying in Sarajevo. This is that guy's hostel I was telling you about.
Okay.
Let's see here. David Leone.
15. So fly out the 19th.
And then fly out the 19th from Budapest back to Bozeman. Now, the sad thing is, you would be then leaving me right exactly when Oktoberfest starts. It starts on the 20th
Yeah, I know.
in
I
Vienna.
was thinking about that. Are you gonna make your way all the way to Munich?
Yeah, then I go Vienna to Prague to Munich to Hamburg. So I'm basically doing the full Oktoberfest tour. Um, the first week of Oktoberfest from Vienna to Prague to Munich. And then I meet up with my foreign exchange student, hopefully in Munich, maybe worst case scenario in Hamburg where he lives. Stay with him for a couple of days and then go to Amsterdam for a couple of days, then fly back.
Back to Montana? Or are you gonna go back to North Carolina?
Yeah, I'd pretty much spend my birthday in Amsterdam, then fly back on the 6th or the 7th of October, and then get back to Raleigh, and then pack up all my shit, and then come back to Montana. And I'll give myself like, a week to get my stuff back, and then a week to start getting moved in and get settled before starting to work in Helena.
Yeah, moving cows.
Yeah, November activities.
Mm. All right, so and speaking of which, another trip. Obviously, let's put a bookmark. Obviously, let's focus on this, but kind of a side note: bookmark Bulgaria, Instant Turkey, Bulgaria, Romania. Um, and then another trip that I would like to do is northern Spain,
Oh,
back
we're
home.
doing a Spain trip. We're doing a full Portugal Spain trip. In fact, we're doing multiple Spain trips. I want to go to Spain. I see myself going back to multiple times in my life. So when you do Spain, you want to do nice mixture of touristy stuff and local stuff. You want to see the monuments, but you want to spend most of your time actually with the Spanish ranchers who are raising cattle on productive farms in the Spanish
Oh,
countryside,
that's
in the
well.
foothills of the Basque Mountains,
Yeah, I
in
want to get the
in the foothills
Galicia.
of the Pyrenees.
Yes, that's where I'm talking about. That's where that's my ancestry. That's where Asturias and all of that. So my goal eventually in the long run is to get some of these embryos from the Galician cattle and bring them back to Montana.
That's totally doable. I don't see why not. Now, what market value would you add by crossbreeding
The
Angus
app
with
score, app
fucking
score, app
Spanish?
score.
Sure. Sure. Yeah, okay. Why would you not just go to Wyoming?
Yeah. Also, so kind of keep the breed alive. Like
Well, it'd get you in the headlines for sure.
yeah.
It would probably piss off my dad too.
That would be not an agreement, but also like
No, he
at the
would
end of the
he would
day,
be pretty pissed off at the whole
yeah,
idea.
yeah, and then but I can market it down to South Florida because obviously in South Florida there's more
Can you
Latinos who
can you
are
see my
Spanish
screen
descent on YouTube or on
on
Facebook.
YouTube? Yeah.
Yeah, I can see.
You see on the left the Hostel World page. This is the floating river um,
Oh, and it
hostel.
has the 19-second delay.
Yeah, I'm touring through it for you, so you'll see in about 5 seconds.
Do you have any more viewers?
Nope, just
Oh,
you,
true.
just you.
or or I necessarily don't have to bring those embryos back to Montana. I'll just hopefully Venezuela. Then there's an opening, and I'll just find some ground in northern in Merida in Venezuela, which is high altitude, um, and start an operation there.
Hmm. Can
Okay,
you?
why is your delay? Your delay is
Is it not working?
no. I just see your chat and the map.
Oh fuck! I don't know why OBS keeps doing this. Properties, display capture, window capture, back to display capture. There we go. Now you should be seeing it. I don't know why OBS keeps doing it. In about 10 seconds, you'll see it.
Okay, there we go. Yeah. That's a hostel.
Yeah. And they got their own bar and everything. They got beers for $1.50. It's like 35 bucks. And then look at this. I'll zoom in on the map over here so you can see where it is.
Mhm.
They are located right here, basically on the little inlet to the Danube. And it's like less than a mile walk to downtown Serbia, or sorry, downtown Sarajevo. Or maybe this. No, this is Belgrade, sorry. Yeah, Belgrade. And then you're gonna find a bunch of like Russian restaurants, hotels, and stuff down here, nightlife. Definitely, I think we need to go sample some of the nightlife the first or second day. I don't think we have much of a choice. I think we sort of got strong armed into it. You know, we would be remiss if we did it, if we didn't do it. You know, we don't even want to go to the nightlife. We don't want to see what's out there,
Yeah.
but we will anyways, just because we're troopers. And the hostel's a nice little easy, like 0.8 mile walk. Um, nothing's booked for sure yet, but this is my favorite place I've found. If you see something come up in the next week or two, if you're serious about this, I'm planning on finishing out this is like my rough draft of the whole trip that I'm going through: lodging, food, activities, all these sorts of estimates, and then getting a rough figure. And then if it's in the green, I'll go ahead and pull the trigger and go start reserving these hostels, locking in the prices for the ferries, especially, and the trains if I can. Some of them I'll have to buy last minute, but just starting to reserve the things that I can ahead of time
Yeah.
without locking myself in too much. So,
Well, you want to, like, to your point, you want to lock yourself in the main points, but once you're in the city center or where your landing spot, kind of have to just figure it out as you go.
yeah, and I'm leaving blank space like that in the itinerary for a lot of these days, because one of my favorite things to do in the city is just show up and then start from square one with like a tour of the city first thing in the morning for like an hour or two, and then just going with the flow and seeing where the day takes you and seeing what people you run into and asking recommendations from locals of where the locals eat and what type of food I should order. And that's how you do the trip. That's how you travel.
Yeah.
But
Are Serbs receptive to speaking Russian?
oh, there's a ton of Russian speakers in Serbia. In fact, the map I'm looking at right now that you're seeing in the stream has English phonetics for the Russian spelling. It's the same alphabet.
Okay.
There's a few additional characters that, are pretty easy to sound out, but like the names of things, even if they're in Serbian, like for example, Novi Sad, like the town north of Belgrade that I'm trying to go to, um, like 2-3 hours from Belgrade on your way to Bucharest. A little bit more off the map. This is where I'm going to go out in the countryside, maybe see Novi Sad for a day, but
How do
try
you
to
say Novi
spend
Sad in Russian? Is it Oben Kas?
Novi Sad.
Novi Sad.
Novi Sad just means new yard, new
New
soil,
York.
new earth.
Okay. Novi
Like,
Sad.
yeah. So that's just what that city means. But like, there's a ton of actual Russians there too, people who were raised in Russia and then immigrated to Serbia. So, there's a ton of Soviet influence, ton of Russian influence from way back in the day, but even more recently, there's actual Russians in these places, and they love vacationing here. This is one of the main spots. This is like the Hawaii. This is like the, what's a basic ass place for an American? This is the Cabo San Lucas. This is the, yeah. So a bunch of Russians here. I'm excited that hopefully you'll get to be there during the Russia day. I'm doing like a Russia day and I'll build it into my story for the Pax Americana content that I'm making by talking about how, you know, the Soviet influence, and talking about the whole content series is about being on the edge of empire, the rise and fall of different empires, how it affects the people that actually live there. It's all told through the lens of locals and a foreigner. and maybe 2 foreigners if you join me.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna try to call Tom later today or within the week and pitch him on him coming out and joining for a little bit too, because he's got his drone and he's great for just content in general. Someone that you mesh with, that you've made content with before, who's a good friend,
Yeah.
who has a good technical understanding of a lot of things that you don't. So Tom would be great to get to join us if we can. But yeah, so looks like my screen keeps getting stuck. I don't know why in the fuck that is, but it's not showing you like what I'm doing.
No. It's showing me the hostel pictures and then the map.
Yep. Well, the good news is that's the hostel, so you at least got to see where you'd be staying. And then now I'm kind of looking at farm stays in the Novi Sad region on that left-hand side. You'll see it in a couple seconds. But yeah, it's amazing how fucking affordable some of these stays are. All you have to do is, get off the beaten path, get away from the tourist centers, and then it's like 40-50 bucks a day for an awesome experience.
It's not bad at all.
No, not bad at all. Let's try Workaway. Have you heard of this site?
No.
Find a host. Europe. Countries in Europe. Let's go Serbia. 50 hosts found. Okay. Now the problem is with this site is it doesn't let you view it on a map, so you just have to find something in the Novi Sad region. There's only 30 or 50 hosts. Fuck. Can you see me working along through the stream now? Nope.
Yeah.
Got stuck again. Fuck.
Hold on. Let me call you back. I'm getting a call.
Okay. Yo, what up?
What you up to?
Oh, just streaming.
Screaming.
Yeah.
All
Welcome,
right.
welcome to the stream. Welcome to the stream, Mike Davidson.
Oh,
Real meeting of the minds.
oh,
Let's see how many viewers we got. I'll be damned. 0 viewers. Okay.
hey, like to say some slurs for everybody.
Yeah.
How are you recovering, my boy?
It's been shitty.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just sucks being in pain and being slow and not being able to work out.
Yeah. Back on that fucking not being able to do shit bullshit, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I hear that. That sucks.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
You
not.
over there? Are you here or are you back home?
I'm in North Carolina still until Monday. I'm here for appointments mostly.
Okay.
I still have to figure out what the fuck I got to do for the army because I haven't done shit. My all my VA stuff's falling through, like the BDD that's supposed to be done before you get out.
Yeah.
It's quickly turning into a very normal, gonna have to apply for VA benefits afterwards type deal.
Oh, that sucks, dude. Are you already within the 90-day window of getting out?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Allegedly, like you're not even allowed to like extend after that 90-day window.
Yeah. Who knows? That's gonna be a pain in the ass, but we'll see.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
What are you doing?
Yeah, you're gonna be home though for the 4th of July, right?
Yeah, I'm going home for a couple weeks and then I come back to get back into my PT appointments, then
Oh,
go back to base for basically like 2 weeks to out process and then start terminal leave.
yep. Yep. Fucking Rush and I are gonna go fucking hike the Art Low on the 4th.
I might have to join you. Is that a four
Yeah.
day?
Yeah, that's a 4-day. That's why we're going.
Yeah, I might have to go.
Are you gonna be able to?
Oh, I'll be back.
Yeah.
So why not? One last go for
Yeah, I
the
didn't.
boys.
Rush is like leaving pretty soon, right? So this is like one of the last things you're gonna be able to do.
Yeah, well, I'll have a fucked up. I guess that's like over a month from now. I should be good to go physically.
Yeah. Fucking you still planning on doing that shit that that we were talking about over on the 4th of July?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You got a plan or not really?
No, you can't. I don't. I mean, I'm not gonna.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
You know, it's one of those deals where you just pretty much say a day where you want it to happen, and then the moment will present itself.
Yeah. Yep, I get you. Yeah, I get you. I get you. Fucking how's the like pain and shit like that ever since the surgery? Did it go smoothly and everything like that, or any fucking issues, problems?
Yeah, the surgery went smoothly, but they only give you enough pain pills for like a couple days. So then, as soon as you're out of oxys, you're just in a lot of pain. You don't sleep very well for like a week, and you're taking ibuprofen and Tylenol constantly, like trying to wean off of it. But if you go too long without it, then it just comes back and bites in the ass. Like yesterday, I was worthless at PT. I couldn't do anything because it just hurt too much.
Yeah. Do you have the same PT or is it a different one over at Womack?
No, I got a PT up here, Holly Springs.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Dude, no, you got to get your boy. Your boy's got to. Do I need to tell you what to do?
Yeah. Yeah, fucking
Your rep for you. Okay.
yeah. No, I was at my PT appointment today, and well, I've been going to a PT and a chiropractor, both like alternating almost every day. I've been doing something. And
Okay.
the chiropractor for $60 each time, yeah, you're paying out of pocket. He'll actually dry needle and do BFR and all of this other stuff that theoretically you could get for free from our people if they weren't lazy fucks.
Yeah, yeah.
You
They
know,
just don't want to.
yeah, they're literally just too lazy to do their job.
Yeah, they love collecting that 150 grand a year that they get paid. But then God forbid you actually ask them to dry needle you or some shit.
Yeah,
And they'll
then
act
they
like whiny bitches.
yeah, and they'll act like you're out of line somehow for
Yeah. Inconveniencing them.
yeah.
Yeah, that's some shit, dude. That is really annoying.
Are you gonna be here for the 4th?
Yeah. Uh yeah.
Well, that'll be fun.
Yep. I'm gonna be leaving pretty soon though. Like July 20th or something like that. I'm gonna be gone for a few weeks. So I'll be gone the end of July. And then I don't really have much else that's like in fucking stone, set in stone yet.
Good.
I was
How's
talking to Paula. I was like, "Hey, dude, what do you think about fucking?" I was like, "I'll ask CJ about going over and meeting him up in fucking Montana over like holiday block leave." And Paula's like, "Fuck no, I'm not going to that."
why?
Yeah, dude, Paula's fucking like super fucking like introvert and shit. She doesn't like spending time with people, you know.
Yeah.
Also, she said that her work doesn't allow you to take time off between Thanksgiving and fucking New Year's. You only get the days off that they give you, and you're not allowed to take any personal time off because allegedly they have like they actually do have a lot of surgeries during that time, and allegedly that's when like accidents and stuff happen quite often during that time too. So they need, the nurses and shit to be at work, ready to fucking do the emergency, to do the fucking surgeries that they have scheduled.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, how's battalion treating you? Is it kicking your ass?
yeah, dude, I've been busy as fuck lately, bro. And it's actually really fucking annoying too. How like, dude, all right, I'll give you an example just today. Okay, so this week I was put on a fucking tasker with Sorb, the fucking recruiters, right? And I had to like get them and other bullshit like that from like ninth battalion companies and battalion and group and everything like that. So I'm like the one doing all the coordination, planning all the stuff for like weapons and fucking vehicles and LRAD, NGLSs, all that crap, right? And I'm also at the exact same time I'm making a fucking land nav course for our company to like train next week, and I have to like I'm doing all that shit. I made the fucking con op, the op board for it. I made a new class for the navy, but it's just bad, They're like real shitty. So I made like a new one, and it's like $400 for fucking thousands of words. I'm gonna be making a new course myself. Yeah, I gotta go out and take the land nav course like next month. guy, and the next guy's like, "Oh, no one told me about this." And then they're like grossly exaggerating how much shit that they have. So, dude, I need like 40 fucking compass, right? That's a lot of fucking compass. They're $100 a piece. Also, I'm not gonna go buy some. That'd be ridiculous. But they'll be like, "Oh yeah, fucking Harvey over at ACO, he's got like 20 of them. Fucking dude over at BCO's got like 20 something of them. Just go get them from them." And I go over there, dude. Harvey gives me 4. Harvey's got fucking 4, and the dude from BCO's got like 15 or some shit.
What the hell?
Yeah. And I'm like, dude, I need like 40 of them, bro. Like, what are we talking about here?
Damn. That's just so classic.
Yeah. Just everybody, they'll tell you they'll do it, and you'll be like, all right, sick. And you'll come back a week later and they've done nothing to like progress the thing that they said that they would do. And then they just go, oh yeah, get with this guy. It'll be easier for you to just get straight with them. But meanwhile, I'm planning this whole fucking thing. I'm already coordinating all this shit. I'm going to the fucking range brief. I'm doing this sword detail. I didn't get home yesterday until fucking 12:30 at night, bro. In the morning.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'm like, and then I'm supposed to come in at fucking 9 o'clock to schedule all this other bullshit. And every time I walk into like ACO or something like that, everyone's just sitting around doing fucking nothing, bro. Every time I walk into the S3, everyone's just kind of like dicking around also. It'd be like that.
Wow.
It'd be over soon though. This is just like a bump, like a huge bump in fucking things asked of you. It'll go back to where I'm doing fucking nothing next month.
Yeah. No, that I fully expect that.
Yeah. Yeah, in a month I'll go back to fucking not doing dick all day also, and it'll be chill as fuck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I better get back to work.
Yeah, dude. Go back to your no streamers chat. Shout out chat. Shout out my homie Craig. Uh fucking shout out Young Golf. RIP. Hey, shout out my boy Rich Homie Quan, RIP. Shout out Boosie Badass. Not RIP, but hey, shout out King Von. Hey, King Von, where all my King Von fans at? All right, anyway. Yeah, get back. I'll talk to you later, dude.
The chat says bye too. We'll talk soon.
Later, bro.
Later.